Welcome, everybody, to Victory Theater's barebone production of Backstory, an evening of true stories, poetry, and flights of fancy. I'm Rashim and I'll be your host. Tonight's theme, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? There have been some very different perspectives about this classic film over time. Some consider it one of the most important films in the history of cinema. Some credit it for helping change race relations, specifically on the perspective of some of the ideas of interracial marriage. Some point to the film's stunning success all over the country as a sign that things have changed. Others see it very differently. The film was made before I was born, but I've seen it a number of times throughout my life. My mother loved watching films from her youth, and when they would play on television, I sat and watched right along with her. Sidney Poitier was one of my favorite actors, as I imagine he was for many Black people of the generation before me. As you may know, Sidney Poitier was the first Black man to win an Oscar when he won for playing a handyman, helping a group of nuns build a chapel in Lilies of the Field in 1963. But 1967 may have been his most triumphant year as an actor, when he starred in 3 highly acclaimed films, To Sir with Love, In the Heat of the Night, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And all those films were nominated for 17 Oscars, though none of the nominations were for Poitier. Perhaps that was more a sign of the times, as the industry was starting to make more hard-hitting films dealing with race and bigotry. But the Academy was not yet ready to give a Black man an award for a film in which he actually showed some strength or sexuality. I remember stories of Black folks from my mother's generation as they told about neighbors yelling in the streets and family calling whenever Black people were on TV. It was a big deal, and it meant a lot to all of them, even if the depictions of Black people often ended up being disappointing. But with Sidney Poitier, they didn't have to worry about that. He was always going to portray a 3-dimensional character with intelligence and heart. That may be why every time I've seen Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I've always heard a particular reaction. Now, mind you, I've always seen the film with other Black people. The reaction that someone has given every time, no matter the age of the group, is, why in the hell would Sidney Poitier's character, a highly intelligent and accomplished doctor, choose to marry this young airhead? It was said throughout the film that Joey, the love interest of Poitier's Dr. John Prentice, was a smart and strong young woman, but she seemed to be oblivious to the world around her, including the foibles of her own parents. And we know that Poitier was a doctor working to change the world, but what exactly did Joey do? She was vibrant and appealing, so one might understand having a fling while they're in romantic Hawaii, but marriage? Apparently, it wasn't only Black people who felt this way. Now, along with Poitier, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner starred 2 of the biggest names from the golden age of Hollywood, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. For Spencer Tracy, this would be the last film of his remarkable career. For Hepburn, it would be her last chance to star with Tracy, who was not only her on-screen partner in countless films, but who was the love of her life off-screen. Hepburn and everyone else on set knew that Tracy was not long for the world, and he died just 2 weeks after the production. The shoot was very emotionally trying for Hepburn, as she not only played opposite Tracy for his last film, but she played with a close family member for her first film, as Katherine Houghton, who played Joey, was the niece and namesake of Hepburn. In an interview in 2002, Katherine Houghton said that she too felt it made no sense that Poitier's character would marry a woman who she called a Pollyanna idiot. She wanted Joey to have more dimension, but the filmmakers were not in agreement. In the same interview, Houghton expressed her own feelings about the importance of the film as it related to race relations. She said, "I don't think it did a thing for civil rights. It was a movie for white people." As much as I personally love this film, I have to agree with Houghton. Not much in this movie rang true for Black people. Besides questioning Poitier's character's choice in a mate, some of us wondered why Tilly, the maid played by legendary actor Isabel Sanford, was made to respond to Dr. Prentice the way she did. Instead of being proud of or impressed by this young Black doctor, and at least somewhat worried for him in this situation, she was suspicious of him from the jump. She referred to him as boy and nigger, and warned that if he messed up, she would show him what Black power really is. At one point, she said, "Civil rights is one thing, but this is something else." I and everyone I've seen this film with have always thought her reaction was unrealistic and even ridiculous. But later I realized that perhaps her reactions weren't meant to be the realistic words of the Black maid. They were the words of the white racists who would watch the film so that their thoughts would be represented without the film showing the face of such a character. At the end of the film, Tilly was blamed for instigating the whole mess, as if someone with the least power in the room, excuse me, as if somehow the least powerful person in the room was the reason for all of the shocked faces and long silences and the mistrust that led to Spencer Tracy's character doing a background check on the doctor. Tracy's memorable monologue was the climax of the film, because the holy union of this brilliant doctor and this vivacious liberal young woman ultimately came down to the decision of the old white man. Houghton was right. This was a movie made for white people. Given that, the filmmakers were also right, as the movie was a smashing success even among white audiences in the South. It wasn't meant to take us to the end of our long road with racial issues in this country. It was made with the understanding that some people need to take baby steps. And I guess for many, it was a step to accept that just maybe a Black man, if he was an absolutely brilliant, charming, and beautiful Black doctor, could be worthy of their sheltered and oblivious, although well-meaning white daughter.